Hey you guys, so you guys know that I am going to be doing Simplicity 9892 Sew Along live. So we are doing view B, this view right here, the fly front, but I am actually not going to be color blocking this. I'm actually just going to make it a solid color like you see in view A. Also, what we're going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be showing you how to size up the pattern and take your measurements. So if that's some content you would like to see, please continue to watch.
See your boyfriend.
Yeah, he's got a nice room. You won't have it long. He left a call for 7 a.m.
Bad girls make them say wow. Bad girls make them say wow. Bad girls make them say wow.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Rochelle from Rochelle.Handmade.Designs. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys kind of like the pre of what I do before getting into the sew along. All right. Now, if you are new to the channel, welcome. Hello, Ciao, Guten, Aloha, Hola, Konnichiwa, Gwaan, Sabonani, Shalom, Bonjour, Terve. If you're returning, you guys know what to do. Quick snack, something to drink. Come on back so we could go ahead and get into this video. So without further ado, to keep this short, sweet, and get you over to the cutting table so we could go ahead and make adjustments, show you how to make these adjustments that you may need for this pattern that we are doing is Simplicity 9892. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So the first things first, you're going to need to take 3 measurements, okay, for me. First part is your waist. Now, me personally, I like to wear my pants right at my belly button. So I'm going to take the measurement around my belly button. Now, before you even say anything, I'm going to show you where I'm going to take the measurement. So just hold tight. All right, I'm going to show you where I'm going to take my measurement. But, you know where your belly button is. You know where your natural waist. If you're unfamiliar with where your natural waist is, it's where that bend. If you lean over to the side, you can feel that bend. But wherever you normally wear your jeans, pants, wherever at, is where you want to take your measurement at. You could put a little string there if you would like to take that measurement. All right, that's measurement number 1. Measurement number 2, make sure you take your measurement around your hips, okay? And what I mean by that is the fullest part of your bootay. If you have a flat butt, you don't have to worry about it, all right? But if you have a round bootay like me, take it around the fullest part of your butt. It's where that curve is curving, okay? Take that measurement, all right? And then you also want to take 2 more measurements. I said 3, but I meant 4. You want to take your crotch depth and your crotch curve. Your crotch depth is if you sit down on a chair from where you normally wear your pants at, me preferably, it's going to be at the belly button down to the chair. All right. So I'm going to take from my belly button down to the chair and take that measurement. And the last one I'm going to be telling you to measure is from wherever you wear your pants all the way to the back, which is your crotch curve. All right. So I'm going to take the measurement from my belly button all the way to the back to the top part of where I want my pants to fit nice and comfortable without looking like it's rising or lowering in the back. All right. So those are the 4 measurements that I'm going to show you now how to take those measurements. I'm going to write it down and then we're going to size up the pattern or make adjustments to the pattern. So without further ado, let me show you how to take these measurements. Let's get into it. All right, so now we're gonna take our measurements. So the first measurement I want you to do, now first of all, you want to wear undergarments. Now, because for the sake of this video, I am going to do it with what I have on today. So the first thing is I'm going to measure the waist measurement right here at my belly button. So I'm gonna come up a little closer so you can see. Now, I'm just going to show you kind of like right where my belly button is right here. Now, I wouldn't normally have this, but for the sake of YouTube, I'm going to keep my clothes on instead of take them off. But I just need you to measure around wherever you want it. Now, this is my belly button right here. So I'm going to measure at my belly button where I normally wear my jeans at. And I'm going to take that measurement. Now, I know for me, mine is a 36. I'm going to add about 1 inch just for the sake of room. So I'm going to write down 37 inches, okay? Now remind you, I have this top on, so that's why it's going to be 1 inch off, because I know my waist is a 34 right now. So I'm going to do 35 just to give me a little room, all right? Next measurement will be the hips, okay? Now, ladies, if you got a badunkadunk like myself, booty and all, okay. So what we're going to do is measure around those hips. Yes, the fullest part of your hip. You see this curve right here? Call your bootay. You want to make sure that you take the fullest part. You see how I'm taking the fullest part of my butt? Okay, so you want to take the fullest part of your bootay, all right? Measure around there and make sure that now remind you, I have jeans on, so it's going to add a little bit, but you don't want too much added. So you really want to get some undergarments when you're doing this, okay? So I'm going to move a little closer so you can see, okay? All right. And then you want to measure whatever it's going to be. Now, I know my hips is a 46. I like to add 1 to 2 inches for ease, room, and movement for when you're sitting down. So mine is 46. I'm going to add 2 inches, which makes it a 48. And that's the measurement I'm going to be going with. All right. All right. And the last one that we're going to take is our crotch curve. All right. So what I need you to do is take your measuring tape. I'm going to come up so you can see this. And you're going to go from your belly button in between your legs, right? Don't judge me. And then come all the way up to wherever you want your pants to stop at, okay? So it's going to look like this, okay? I'm hoping you can see that. Now, you probably can't see the numbers, but let me tell you something. You don't want to make it so tight to where it's looking like a camel toe. No shade, okay? You want to make sure that it's loose enough to where you don't have it like all the way up like this, but you want a little bit of a dip. And what I mean by that is I'm going to put it at my belly button, come all the way to the back. Now, I wore jeans because I know exactly how I like my jeans to fit, and this is where my number is going to be. So if you know what a tramp stamp is, right, that's where mine is going to go, from my belly button in between my legs up to the tramp stamp, okay? Now, after I measure that, mine is 30. I'm going to add 1 inch for movement down here. Not to have it loose or anything, but to have it sit really, really nicely, all right? So that measurement for myself is the 31. Now I'm going to transfer all these measurements to my paper pattern. So let's go ahead and do that. But before that, I need to show you how you take your crotch depth. So let me go ahead and sit down so I can show you how to do that now. And the last measurement we're going to be taking is our crotch depth. So what I want you to do is take wherever you want to wear your jeans at. Like I mentioned, I like to wear mine starting at the belly button. So I'm going to take from my belly button and go all the way down to the chair, okay? Measure from your belly button to the chair. I'm hoping you can see that. And mine says 14. So that's going to be my crotch depth. And I'm going to show you where this plays into everything when we get to the pattern. So don't worry about that. So go ahead and take that, and then I'll see you over at the table. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the pattern pieces you're going to need in order to sew up Simplicity 9892. Here's the pattern. And I'm just going to show you what pattern pieces you will need, and then we'll go ahead and get into the sizing up of the pattern. All right, so I'm cutting a size 20 at the waist, 24 at the hips. I'll show you how to size up the pattern here shortly. But the pattern pieces you're going to need is pattern piece number 5, which is your yoke front. You're going to need all the pattern pieces, by the way. So let me just say all pattern pieces 1 through 12. All right. So this is pattern piece number 5, your yoke front. You need to, I'm doing view A, but just the fly front from view B. All right, so I'm going to cut 2 of fabric. Pattern piece number 7, your yoke back, 2 of fabric for this one. Next pattern piece is pattern piece number 4, which is your side front and pocket. You need to cut 2 there. Now this is optional if you want the carriers, but if you want the carriers, you're going to cut 1 of fabric. Next pattern piece is pattern piece number 8, your back pockets. If you want that detail cut the back pockets, but you need to cut 2 of fabric. This is optional as well. Next pattern piece is pattern piece number 11, which is your fly facing. You need to cut 1 of fabric and also interface 1. So you cut 1, interface 1. Next pattern piece is pattern piece number 12, the underlap. You need to cut 1 of fabric and 1 of interfacing there. Next pattern piece is pattern piece number 3, which is your pocket facing. Now this one you need to cut of what, if you want to do kind of like a cute fabric for your pockets, you can do that, but it says lining fabric, but you can definitely cut the same fabric if you do not want kind of like an accent color for your, or a print or whatever for your pockets, okay? But this is cut 2 of for your pocket facing. Next pattern piece is your waistband, which is pattern piece number 10. You need to cut 4 of fabric and also interface all 4 pieces, all right? Now, for me, I think what I'm gonna do, because I don't want my waistband to be super, super thick, I think I'm gonna cut 2 of interfacing, and then the other 2 will be used as facing pieces, okay? So I'm just gonna only interface 2 to get started, and then when I look at the instructions and make my notes, I will definitely update in the live sew along if I added 2 more pieces for interfacing or not, all right? And then the next pattern piece that you're gonna need is pattern piece number 2, which is your side front and side back. You need to cut 4 of fabric. And then you also need pattern piece number 6, which is your back. You need to cut 2 of fabric. And then the last pattern piece is pattern piece number 1, which is your front. You need to cut 2 of fabric, all right? So those are all the pattern pieces that you will need in order to sew up this pattern. So once again, the pattern is Simplicity 9892. It is 12 pattern pieces. However, we're gonna take our time and get to sewing this low-waisted pants together, all right? So let's go ahead, put this aside, and let's talk about the pattern now. All right, so let's go ahead and do some sizing up, taking measurements so you have a good fit on Simplicity 9892. Like I mentioned before, I'm going to be doing view B just for the sake of the fly front instead of the button front. Now, if this comes out great and I like them and everything, I will do another pair where I will be doing view A, the button front. And what I may do is just film how to do the button front, but not necessarily the entire video. Then that way you could still go through the whole process and I just film how to do the button front for you if you have any issues with doing a button front, all right? So that's that. Now, just for sake of telling you what size I'm cutting and all that stuff, so I'm gonna cut a size 20 at the waist, but I'm grading to a size 24 at the hips, all right? I took my measurements where I want to wear it. So I know I said that I was going to do it at the belly button. However, I would have to add too much to the yoke front and back and a little bit to the waistband, which will pretty much, I don't want to say destroy the pattern, but it would be too complicated to show you guys how to size everything up on camera. So with that being said, I'm going to go 1 inch below my belly button and have that as where I'm going to wear my jeans. It's not too low, but it's not like right at my hip bone, okay? So it'll work out perfectly for myself. So I'm gonna show you those measurements. I'm gonna show you how to transfer those measurements to the paper pattern before you cut out your pants, all right? So let's go ahead and get started. So what you're going to need, you're gonna need tape if you need to add any inches. You're gonna need that tape, okay? Other things that you're going to need is a calculator, of course. And I have a whole sewing tool kit, what you will need. So I'm gonna pop that up on the screen. It's also going to be in the description box below. So you could see with any of my sew alongs, you're going to need the same basic items. The only thing that's different is the notions, all right? You're gonna need a pencil pen marker. I like to use a pencil pen and marker for you guys to see it. And then you're gonna need rulers. Now I have my see-through ruler and I have my 3-inch ruler as well. I like to use both of them for, you know, this one is basically if I'm using it to mark my 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. This one is really, really old. I need to get a new one for real. But I like to use both of those as well. I have so many rulers, but these are the two that I use the most. Because I'm working with paper, I am going to be using my paper rotary cutter. I have one for paper, one for fabric, never mix the two there. This is my paper one, that's why it looks so beat up. But it does have a old blade from fabric. Make sure you're changing out your blades for your rotary cutter as well, all right? So those are the main items that you're going to need just for the sake of this one. I don't need any scissors or anything right now. But let's go ahead and let me show you how to make adjustments to your pattern now. All right, so now I'm gonna zoom this in so you can see it or put it up on the screen, one or the other. Now, these measurements over here is what I'm going to be transferring to my paper pattern, but this is the measurements that I have. Now, when I was looking at doing it at the belly button, I was thinking of doing a waist of a 41. Now, my natural waist is a 34. At my belly button, it is a 39. 1 inch below my belly button is also a 39. But in order to wear these jeans with a belt, if I need to, and to have enough room to where I'm not sweating at my belly button or anything because of material or anything, I'm giving myself 2 inches of ease at the waist. So I'm going to do my waist at 41 because it's going to be a lot lower than my natural waist. Number one, I do have a little pooch. I'm not going to even front like I don't, okay? That's why I'm on a fitness journey right now to lose that little bit of a tummy that I got within the last 2 years from just eating whatever and not exercising. No shade to myself whatsoever, but if you know, you know. So I'm going to make it at 41. Now, in regards to the hips, my hips are a 46. To give me 1 inch of ease, I'm going to be making my hips at a 47. Now, I'm going to say that if your hips are a 46, 47, maybe it's not enough, but I would definitely say to size it up by 2 inches depending on your fabric. Now, for me, I'm using a cotton sateen. I cannot link to the direct fabric color, but I will link to like a cotton sateen that I picked up from Joann's. Now this fabric right here, I just picked it up from Joann's and it was in the clearance section. So that's why I can't link to the direct color, but I will link to a similar color for so you're able to see that. Now, because I put a 47, I may go up to a 48 just to give myself room for when I'm sitting down, it's not tight or anything like that. All right. So I might go up to a 48 to give myself 2 inches of ease. Now, when it comes to the crotch curve that I measured from 1 inch below my belly button to my tramp stamp, like I was telling you guys yesterday. Well, when you're seeing it, it's the same day, but I filmed that part yesterday, the crotch curve. So for the crotch curve, what I did after taking the jeans off and everything and take it with, you know, just undergarments, my crotch curve is a 26. Now, if I was doing it from belly button all the way to the center, all the way up the back, it would be a 31. But because I'm not doing that, I'm doing 1 inch below my belly button to the tramp stamp area, it's 26. So it removes 5 inches there. Crotch depth, that's when I measured from my belly button down to the chair, and that was 14 inches. Now I'm gonna show you how to put these onto your paper pattern so you have a good fit. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna move that off to the side. The first thing I want you to do, let's talk about the waist area first, all right? Because that's the first thing. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab pattern piece number 10, pattern piece number 7, pattern piece number 5, 11, and 12. So I'm gonna say that again, 5, 7, 10, 11, and 12. So go ahead and grab those, and we're gonna make adjustments to those now. All right, so the first thing I want you to do, now, here's the thing. I'm cutting a size 20 because I did the measurements on every single piece for every single size to determine the best sides for me to cut. So what I did was I started off with my hips based off the pattern. The waist was going to be super duper big. So I was like, well, I'm not going to need a size 24 because it would make my waistband super duper big. And that's not what I want. I know my hips is much bigger than my waist. I am like over 10 inches, okay? So I always have that problem of always sizing up at the hips. You guys may have that same problem as well, where your waist is smaller than your hips or your hips is smaller than your waist. Whatever the situation may be, I never cut one side and go all the way down. I always have to make adjustments when I'm doing pants, okay? So with that being said, I worked backwards. So instead of doing a 24, the next size down was the 22. It was still too big. So that's why I'm going with the 20, because it will give me that 41 inch that I'm looking for, okay? So let me show you how to do that. So I'm just gonna do my measurements, do this on your measurements. Make sure you take your measurements. I'm gonna put my measurements on the screen so you're able to kind of like see that with me. Now, I have showed you guys before in a video that I did that was titled, Let's Figure It Out. So I'm gonna put it up on the screen in the description box below on waist and hips, okay? I will be doing one for your bust measurements as well in your upper bust. So just stay tuned for that for another video where I show you how to do that, all right? So this is my yoke front pattern piece number 5. What you're going to do is you're gonna, I like to call it walk the tape measure, okay? So I'm gonna do like 1 or 2 pieces so you can see how to do this. So you're just going, so right here, so if you look at it, just make sure you take that measurement. It's about 2 inches. So 2 inches down from this top is where this notch is. So measure all the way across 2 inches. Now I'm not gonna do this because I have already done this, all right? So you're gonna measure 2 inches down, mark a line all the way across. And then once you do that, so basically I'm just gonna kind of show you on this, like 2 inches down, right? You're gonna make a dot because it'll be pretty much the center of your pattern piece. Some pattern pieces may be kind of like a 1.75 or 1 3/4 down, but whatever yours is, make sure you mark the measurement all the way across. So you're just gonna do that all the way across, all right? After you do that, you're gonna take your measurement, take your tape measure, I should say, and just walk it all the way across to see how far across from one end to the other end, all right? Now, I get 12 inches. Now, I would highly advise you to take the measurement 2 to 3 times. And the reason why is because you're going to see on some of my pattern pieces that I will take it once and it'll be one number, and then I'll take it again, it's another number, you know? So I took my measurements 2 to 3 times and then decided which measurement was the best, okay? So I'm gonna do it again to make sure. And see, that time again, I got a 12. So that's what I have here, 12. And because it says cut 2, you're going to multiply that 12 by 2, which gives you 24. Now, because it's 5/8 of an inch on this side seam, and you're going to be doing 5/8 of an inch on this center front seam, okay? So 5/8 plus 5/8 is what? 1.25, okay? So you also have to remember that because it says you're going to be cutting 2, this is just one piece right here, 5/8, 5/8. You're going to do the same thing for the second one, 5/8, 5/8. So that makes 2.5 inches, okay? Because this is your yoke front. This is the front of your pant, okay? So let me show you that. So this is going to be this portion right here where you have that first part where it's the dark color. Let me bring this up so you can see. So it's right here. That is your yoke front. And this top portion is your waistband. All right. So because you're going to attach the front yoke, one's going to be the left, one's going to be the right. All right. So you're going to attach it to your pants. That's how this is going. All right, so you're going to subtract 2.5, which is 5/8 plus 5/8 is 1.25. And then another piece, same situation. So when you add 1.25 plus 1.25, that's where you get that 2.5, which are your seam allowance, okay? So when you subtract that out, you get 21.5. So when you have both of the yokes together and measure across, it's going to come out to 21.5 inches for your yoke front piece, okay? Now, let's move over to the yoke back. You're going to do the exact same thing, all right? So grab pattern piece number 7. And what you're going to do, same situation that you did before. You're just going to measure down. Now, mine, I did 2 inches all the way across. Make sure you measure all the way across because it has a curve, okay? And then you're going to take your tape measure, and from that line that you create, you're going to walk it all the way across to measure the pattern piece, okay? Now, for me, for a size 20, now remind you, this pattern piece number 7 for mine, it had 2 different sizes, size 20 and a size 24. So I did both, but you only need to do one. So what I did, when I measured across, I got 11.5. Now it tells me to cut 2, so I'm going to take that 11.5, multiply that by 2, and I received 23 inches. All right, so because I cut 2, you have 5/8 and 5/8 on this pattern piece and the second pattern piece that you're going to cut out. So 1.25, 1.25, or 1 1/4, whatever way you want to say it. When you add both of those together, you get the seam allowance of 2.5 that's going to be removed. So you take the 23 minus 2.5, which gives you 20.5, okay? All right, now I'm going to grab pattern piece number 5. I know you're wondering, how can you figure out your waist measurement because it's not given on the back of the pattern. The only thing that's given on the back of this pattern is your hip measurement, okay? And for size 20, it says that your hip measurement is a 44, a size 22, 46, and a 24 is a 48. Now I want that 48, which is why I'm cutting a hip measurement of a 24, okay? All right, back to it. So when you add 20.5 and 21.5, that gives me a 42. I'm perfectly fine because I wanted a waist measurement of a 41. So 1 extra inch is not going to be too bad. So this is the yoke front and the yoke back, okay? Now I'm going to move this off to the side and let's get our waistband because our waistband needs to measure pretty much 42 inches as well, okay? So my waistband, I cut a size 20. You're going to do the exact same thing that you did to your yoke front and back. You're going to take that measurement, mark it all the way across to create your line all the way across your waistband. Then you're going to take your tape measure and walk it all the way across like you did for the yoke front and the yoke back, okay? Now, I'm just kind of showing you this because I already took my measurements. Now, make sure that you are not. Now, I want to show you guys this. There's 2 lines. You have a solid line, and then you have a dotted line. For me, because I'm doing a size 20, I have a dotted line. You're going to go to that second line, not the first line, the second line, okay? This line right here. All right, so that's where you're going to be measuring all the way across. Now, for a size 20, I measured 20.75. And this is where I measured like 3 times to get the right one. I'm going to zoom it in so you can see it. So what I did is I measured 3 times. I received 20.75. I multiplied that by 2 because we're cutting 4. Now, because it says cut 4, what happens is 2 is for the waistband and then 2 is for the facing, okay? So with that being said, what we're going to do is we multiply that by 2. It gives us 41.5. And then I take out the seam allowance like we did previously. The seam allowance is 2.5, which gets me a waistband of 39. Okay. Now, because for this waistband, you're going to have things attached to it. All right. So I'm going to move the waistband out of the way. All right. And you can always go back to this video if you need any help with how to figure out if everything's going to fit perfectly, all right? Now, to your waistband, you're gonna have your fly front and your underlap. If you're doing, well, it doesn't matter if you're doing the button front or the fly front, it's going to be the same thing, okay? Now, your fly facing, I'm gonna show you the front part of your pants. All right. So your fly facing, which is this part right here, pattern piece 11, is going to go right here. Now, if you notice, you have all of this extra up at the top. Why? Because your yoke is going to be attached to that, as well as your waistband is going to be attached, okay? Now, if you look at your pattern piece, right, your fly facing is going all the way up to the yoke. So you want to make sure that everything fits comfortably, okay? So that's why your waistband needs to fit the same amount. So what you need to do, I'm going to move this out of the way. Your fly facing is going to be attached and it's going to leave 2 inches. So what you do to make sure that this is going to come out, because you got your waistband, your fly facing, and your underlap's going to be attached to all of that as well. So it needs to come out the same of that 42 inches, okay? So what you need to do is take the measurement right here. Now, one good rule is, because this is not going to be folded, just make sure that you take the measurement across, okay? So that gets me 2.625, that's 2 5/8 inch. Subtract the 5/8 of an inch, because you're gonna sew 5/8 of an inch right on this side where you have the 2 notches. So now this fly facing is going to be 2 inches, okay? Now move that out the way. Grab your underlap, which is pattern piece number 12. Now, because this underlap is going to be folded in half and it's going to go on this side, you know, so basically you're gonna have it like this. This is going to be the left part of your pants, and your underlap is going to go like this, okay? But it's going to be up a little bit more because you're going to have it like that, okay? That's how it goes on your pants. All right, I'm going to show you how to put it all together. It's going to make sense once everything comes together, okay? Just trust the process. All right, so on the underlap, because this is actually folded in half, I went ahead, folded in half. And then I took my tape measure, measure it across, and it gets me 2 inches, okay? Now, because the seam allowance on this is 3/8 of an inch, so you have 3/8 on both the top and the bottom, all right? So 3/8 plus 3/8 is 3/4 or 0.75. So what that looks like, because if you're wondering like, how are you getting these numbers? You take 3 divided by 8. Which is 0.375. Multiply that by 2, and it gives you 0.75. 0.75 is 3 divided by 4, or 3/4, okay? So that's how you get that measurement of 0.75. So if you take the 2 minus the 0.75, it gets you 1.25, all right? So now what you do to make sure that your waistband is going to fit your yoke and all of that good stuff, right? You take your waistband measurement, and I'm going to show you how this comes out, which is 39. I'm going to take the 2 inches from my fly front, and then I'm going to take the 1 inch from my underlap, 1.25, all right? So that gives me 42.25, about 0.25 off. It'll be perfectly fine because I could definitely make sure that it stretches and makes sense, all right? So that's how you make sure that all of the pieces is going to match up very quickly, all right? So let's go ahead and talk about the front and back of our pants now. All right, so go ahead and grab pattern piece number 1 because I have to make an adjustment on mine. Now, one thing that I did is I'm going to be cutting a size 20 because my waistband and my yoke will be a size 20, okay? So with that, one thing I have to do to make sure is it's going to fit. So just make sure that when you do that, everything fits. So you're going to measure across. I have already done this, but I'm telling you that you're going to need to measure whatever sides you cut. Now, because I have to make an adjustment, I need to make sure that size 20 is going to fit. I need to make sure I add in the fly facing and the underlap to this top piece, okay? So I'm going to make sure I do that to make sure everything fit before I cut my pattern piece for pattern piece number 1, all right? The other adjustment that I needed to make is because my hips, I'm going to be cutting a size 24. So I'm going to grab my ruler. And what I'm going to do, I was going to cut a size 26, but I decided on a 24. So I'm going to go from the size 20 to the 24 line. And I'm going to make a line. Just like this. Okay, so what I'm saying is basically my hips is going to be a size 20, but it's going to gradually get to the 24 by the time I reach that hip measurement, okay? Now, grab pattern piece number 3, because this is very, very important, okay? You have a pocket facing, and this pocket facing is to fit on every side. But here's the catch. You cut a size 20, but you need your hips to be a size 24. So what you need to do is make sure that when you put your pocket on, it's going to fit. Now, I have about a good maybe 3/8 of an inch off. So what I'm going to do is recreate that. So what I'm going to do is grab a piece of paper. Okay. And I'm going to grab my marker just to make that line, all right? So now I'm just going to use kind of like my tape. Instead of taping it down, I'm just going to use my tape just to draw the line. And I'm hoping you're able to see this on camera. You probably can't see what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put it on this side. And what I'm going to do is just take my marker. And I'm just going to trace this line. Now, another thing I want to do is I want to make sure it did not pick up all the way because I have tape on there anyway, but I want to measure the line. So that line is roughly 7 3/8. So that's 7.375, all right? So I'm going to make sure, so I'm going to do this one more time. I know I need to stop right here. All right, so I'm going to make that line. So it started right here and stopped right here. So I'm just gonna make the line 7 3/4 with my ruler. Okay, just like so. Now I'm gonna make sure that it is correct. Once again, this is one of the process where you have to just make sure everything is right. Like a marking line for your notch, okay? So this is my line. Now for my pocket facing. So now you take your pocket facing. This is the top, all right? I'm not really worried about the notch because now what we have to do is extend it, okay? So what I have to do is this is going to go all the way down here. So what I'm gonna do is take this, and now this is not gonna be my notch. My notch is gonna move. And then I need to add distance right here to the top, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is make sure I post this right here. I'm going to tape my fly facing just like so, okay? And now what I'm going to do, I'm gonna cut this out only because I need the distance, okay? Okay, so I cut that out. I'm gonna take this paper, put it underneath, and I'm going to tape again and create that line to add to the top of my pocket. So I'm just going to tape right there. Now, just remember your top is right here. So what you want to do is measure the distance. That's about 1 inch. So I'm going to be adding 1 inch to the top of the pocket. See how from the top of this to here, it's about 1 inch. So I'm just going to measure all the way across and add that 1 inch. But really, it doesn't seem like 1 inch. It seems about like 3/4 of an inch. But measure whatever yours says and measure it across, and you should be good. All right. Now I just created a new pocket pattern that's going to fit. All right. So after I do that, I'm going to get a little bit of tape to make sure it's good to go. And then I'm just going to cut this new addition to my pocket out. So just go ahead and cut it out. All right, so now what I'm going to do to make sure that this bottom portion right here fits, I'm going to move everything out the way to clear off my space so you are able to see very well. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this pocket pattern piece, right? And I'm going to make sure it fits now. So to make sure that it fits, and it does, it fits right there. So it will go very well in right here. See? So that's all you have to do to make that adjustment, because your pocket needs to fit and you don't want a short pocket. So that's why I needed to add extra to it, okay? So this is where my pocket needs to fit, and it fits perfectly. See that? All right. So now that your pocket fits onto your pants, because we made that adjustment, the next thing we want to do, I am pretty much done with number 1, except for the hips. We'll get into that in just a second. Now what you want to do is grab your pocket bag. I believe that's pattern piece number 4. Well, when I say your pocket bag, it's your side, front, and pocket is pattern piece number 4, all right? You have to make the same adjustments. And what that is basically making sure that it's going to fit, okay? Now, the same adjustment that you made to number 3, which is adding that inch to the top, you need to make that same adjustment to pattern piece number 4, okay? So just grab some paper, because they need to match, okay? That's what a lot of individuals forget to do, that what you do to one, you need to do to the other when they're all connecting. So I'm just going to get some tape, okay? And I'm going to make that same adjustment that I just made to my pocket facing to the top portion of my side and front pocket. All right. And then cut it out. Now, before I cut it out, I'm going to measure again. This is one of the things that just get used to taking lots of measurements with this, okay? So when you want to make sure that it's going to fit, you want to match up these notches, because that's how it's going to go. And you want to make sure that the top match up, okay? So when you match that up, it match up perfectly. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut this out. And you could put a note up here that you added 1 inch, but in my case, I only added 0.75 or 3/4. So let me make sure. I don't want to lie and tell you guys I added something and did not add the right amount. Yes, I added 3/4. Okay, so I'm making a note that says added 3/4, so I could always reference back how much I added to the top if I need to. Okay, so that is what mine's looking like. Even though I put it on this side, it doesn't matter which side you put it on, but just make sure that whatever you do to one, you do to the other. Now I placed this on the right side, but it is fine. It is fine. It is fine. It's not going to be a big deal right here, okay? Just as long as you can see where you need to make, where your notch is, it's perfectly fine, okay? All right, so that's that. That is the pockets. Let's talk about the front and the back at the hips. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the hips now. You're going to need pattern piece number 1 and pattern piece number 6. Pattern piece number 2, you're not going to need any at all, simply because this has nothing to, pattern piece number 2, which is your side front and side back, it's not affected at any portion of the waist or the hips. It's just going to add a little bit more volume at the leg area. So there's no sizing up to pattern piece number 2 whatsoever. All right. Now, remind you, I said that I'm going to cut a size 20 at the waist. So make sure whatever adjustment you made to the front, you need to make to the back. And the adjustment that I need to make is to make sure that my waist is going from a size 20 to a 24 at the hips, okay? So I'm going to make the same adjustment on the back. So I'm going to take my ruler, go from the size 20 to the 24 at the hip area, okay? Now I'm going to go back and make it in color it with the Sharpie, just like I did for the front. And that's going to be my cutting line, okay? For when I get ready to cut this pattern. Okay. Also, what I'm going to do, it should fit perfectly. I'm going to check to make sure that my pocket facing fits just like the other one, okay? And it does. Now, the pocket facing is pretty much the front only, not necessarily the back. So you're not going to have like pocket facing in the back. It's just going to be in the front. But you do have a side, front, and pocket. So you want to make sure that fits, okay? So this is the back, and it's going to fit to the side and all that good stuff, okay? So anyway, this is going to the side, front, and back. You have that side, front, and back. That's going to be right here as well. So everything should fit perfectly fine. Now, the next thing you want to do is the hip measurement, okay? So because my hips is going to be a 24, I've already taken these measurements, but let me move everything out of the way so you're able to see 1 and 6. So just get pattern piece number 1 and 6 and move everything out the way now. All right, so now let's focus on the hips. All right, so I'm gonna just show pattern piece number 1 right now. And what you wanna do, now I'm doing a size 24 at the hips, so I'm gonna do my measurement across. Now, all you're gonna do, just like you have been doing, walking the tape measure across. So grab your tape measure, and what I'm going to do is walk it across starting at 24. So 24 is right here. So I'm going to start right here where the green line is, and I'm going to walk it across, okay? So for this, I have like 12 and a half, okay? So you take that 12 and a half, multiply it by 2, which gives you 25, and then subtract that from 2.5, which is your seam allowance at the pocket and the seam allowance you're going to take off at the front, all right? So that gets me 22.5. Now, for my hips, like I mentioned before, I'm trying to get a size 48 minimum for my hips, okay? So that's a 22.5. Now what you're going to do, you're going to go to your back pattern piece. Same thing. You're going to take your measurement all the way across to that line at your hips, which gives me 13 and a half. All right. So I'm going to write down the 22.5, and then I have 13.5. Multiply that by 2, which gives me 27. Subtract out the seam allowance of 2.5. Let's do that again. 13.5 times 2 is 27, minus the seam allowance of 2.5, which gives me 24.5. 24.5. Okay? So 24.5 plus the 22.5 gives me 47. So I want 48, so that means I need to size up at the hips by 1/4 of an inch, okay? Now, let me tell you this. You could do this on your pattern piece at the hips, just go out 1/4 of an inch, or you could just kind of cut a little bit more when you cut it out of your fabric. Now, instead of me just going out 1/4 of an inch, this is what I'm going to do for mine. So I'm just going to go to this hip line, and 1/4 of an inch is about right here. Now I'm going to use my other ruler, my see-through ruler. So what I'm going to do with my see-through ruler, I'm just going to measure out the 1/4 of an inch with my see-through ruler, which is right here at this line right here, this 24 line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm getting that, but I'm going to hit that line right here. So my measurement is going to go out just a little bit further to meet that and come down, okay? So that's how my measurement, I'm just going to cut about 1/4 of an inch more than what I need. That's it, okay? For my garment, okay? Just 1/4 of an inch more at the hip area, okay? So one last thing I'm going to show you, back to the pockets. Now with me having to go out 1/4 of an inch to meet that 48, I'm going to definitely check my pocket again. Make sure that it does what it needs to do, right? But I want to do that at the front, okay? So I need to make that same adjustment to the front. So at the hip, I need to go out 1/4 of an inch, right there. And then I'm just going to make sure that I hit that line from here all the way down to that line, that new line, and then back down like that, okay? And what I'm gonna do is make sure that my pattern piece meets that, okay? And it does. So what's gonna happen is the hips is going to be just a little bit, you know, because I wanna make sure that it's gonna hit that line, and it will, okay? So that's what I'm going to do for mine. You guys could do whatever it is that you want to do for yours. All right. So that's it. Oh, one other thing that I want to tell you is the crotch depth and the crotch curve. All right. That's the last thing. And then this video is done. So when it comes to the crotch depth, which is 14, you see where it says the crotch line? You want to make sure you're measuring that line. Okay. Now, because I'm doing a 24 there, I'm going to measure from the 24 line all the way across. All right. And it gets me that 12.5-ish. All right. But however, you're going to measure the other distance. You got to remember this line and this line together and then subtract it. So it's going to be very fine with the crotch depth. All right. Next thing, crotch curve. You're going to measure around this curvy part right here for both the front and the back. So when I measure around this curve for the 24, just remember, I have to go from the 24 all the way up, and it may be a little different because I have done this at the 26. So I have 11. So I take the 11 minus the 1.25. Only reason is because it's 1.25 instead of 2.5 is because you only need to know for the one side of the front and the back, not both, okay? So therefore, 1.25, which gets you 9.75. Now I'm gonna measure one more time to make sure I received a 11 for mine. So that time I got a 10.875. So I'm gonna write the 10.875 and measure one more time. And that's why I say be mindful of not just taking the first measurement that you get. Measure several times to make sure that you get the same number 2 to 3 times. Now that time I got 10.75. All right, one last time to see what the actual number will be. 10.75. So I'm going to take the 10.75 to minus 1.25. And it gets 9.5. So the back crotch curve is 9.5. Now remind you, the crotch curve that I'm trying to get is a 26, okay? So with that being said, I need to measure the crotch curve for the front. Now I did the back. My back was a 9.5. I'm going to move that out the way. Go ahead and grab the front. You're going to do the same thing. I'm going to measure from the top, down, and then walk it around the curve. All the way to a size 24. 10.5. So I take the 10.5 and I'm going to measure a second time because you guys have seen that you can measure it the first time and it could be one number, second time could be another number, third time could be the charm. Yes, 10.5 the second time, 2. So I'm going to take that 10.5 minus 1.25. That's because you're going to have 5/8 of an inch seam allowance at the inseam and 5/8 of an inch seam allowance at the top waist area. 5/8 plus 5/8 is 10/8, which is 1.25, 1 1/4. So that's going to give me 9.25 for the front, okay? 10.5 minus 1.25 is 9.25, okay? So you have your front and your back. Now, you need to grab your yoke front and yoke back piece. All right, so now that you have your yoke front and back piece, what you want to do is measure from the top to the bottom. I did that already on mine, but I'm just going to show you again how this thing works, okay? So this is my yoke back. And what I'm going to do is measure from the top to the bottom. And I get roughly 4 1/4, okay? So I'm going to take 4.25. Now I'm going to measure a second time because you know how these things works. And I get 4.25. I'm going to subtract the seam allowance, which is the top and the bottom, 5/8 and 5/8, which is 1.25, and take the 4.25 minus the 1.25, which gives me 3. So when this is sewn together, it's 3 inches, all right? Now I'm going to take the front. Same situation. I'm going to measure top to bottom. You could do it in the center if you want, which gives you 3.5. You do it over here, it's going to get you 3.75. Now, me personally, what I would definitely do is measure where it's going to be close to the edge, okay? So this is how it pretty much is going to go, the yoke back, okay? Just like this. So you want to measure close to the back seam. So I'm going to measure close to this side and it gets me 4. Now instead of doing 4.25 because that was at the center back, I need to do at the center front area. So I'm just going to do 4 minus 1.25, which is 2.75. So that's what I'm going to use because this measurement is closer to the center and the center back. You want to get where you're going to attach at. See? So when I do this, it's going to attach like this, okay? All right. Now, the next thing that you want to do is grab your yoke front and you're going to do the same measurement at your front, okay? So you want to take that measurement. I get 3 inches, so you take the 3 minus 1.25, which is 1.75, okay? So now you're gonna add up the 2.75 plus the 1.75, okay? Then you're gonna add in the 9.5 from the back, the 9.25 for the curve at the front, And then whatever you have for your waistband, make sure you get your waistband. Now, remind you that I'm trying to get a crotch curve of 26 inches. So for this, I only need 2.75 from what's already on the screen. All right, so all you need to do, you need to find your center front, right? And then you're just going to pretty much measure the same way. So I get roughly about 2.875. So you're going to take the 2.875 and minus 1.25 for the seam allowance. I'm going to write down the 23.25, which is what I received before taking the waist measurement. 2.875 minus 1.25 is 1.675. 625, I'm sorry. And then I'm going to take that, add it to the 23.25, and I get 24.875. Now that is a little too short, which means you can go ahead and size that up because I need a crotch curve of a 26, okay? Now, two things that you can do. You can add to the waistband and the yoke back, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with where like after this is attached, where it's going to fall. Reason being is because you want to measure that same area. Like this is going to fall right here, okay? And then I'm going to take this yoke piece and see where this is going to measure out, to measure it again to see if I could get that 26, okay, that I'm looking for. Now, remind you that this back piece, the reason why this is staying center back, so this is going to go like this. So this is the center front, this is the center back of the yoke back. So I have this right here, it's going to look right here. And then I have the center back, which is going to go to the back piece. And I'm just kind of like showing you how this is going to play out. So I'm going to measure it again to make sure it's going to fit correctly, okay? So this is going to be that piece for me, okay? So you have a double piece right here. So what's going to happen is it's going to be like this. It's going to then upward, okay? So what I want to do, I'm going to flip this over to the back so I can see how this is going to go, like right here. So you want to take the measurement kind of like right past the double lines right here, double notches right here, because this is the center back, which is half. So what I'm going to do is put a line right here and take that measurement upward, okay? So I need to measure, instead of measuring over here, I need to measure from about here to here instead. So I'm just going to take that measurement, and that gives me 4. Once again, it gives me 4, so this measurement is correct. Same thing with the center front piece. I'm going to take that measurement again and see what I get, and then the waistband measurement and see what I get. All right, so I'm going to do that. Make sure that my crotch curve is 26 inches. If I need to add anything, it's saying that I need about 1 1/4. What I would do is add that to my waistband and my yoke pieces at the top. Very little, like if I need to, let me show you. So I need a 26, right? 1.125. And because you have 2 waistbands, 2 yoke pieces or whatnot, I'm going to divide that by 4. So really I need to add 0.281, which is about 1/4 of an inch to each one. If I just cut kind of like a little bit bigger at the top, it'll be perfectly fine. So I'm not going to make any adjustments to the pattern itself. I'm just going to cut a little bit bigger at the waistband, just a little bit more to fit that 26 that I'm looking for. All right. So I hope this kind of help you in how to size up your patterns and how to take measurements and make it fit onto the pattern pieces. All right. All right. So that's it with sizing everything up. I hope you enjoyed how to do this. I hope you are not intimidated with doing pants. That's it for this video. If this video was educational, inspiring, and fun, please do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe button, also turn on the notification bell so you are notified every time I upload a new video. Also, join me live tonight where I put this pattern together, and it's going to be either 2 to 3 sessions. I'm going to try to get everything done in 2 sessions, but if I don't, I will create a third one to complete the entire pair of pants. All right. I'm going to make it as easy as possible. Hope to see you there. Until next time, peace.
Bad girls make them say